Hello, everyone. How are we all doing today? Ready for some portfolio reviews? Let's see. What do we start with today? I think... Okay, they're in the correct order. Sweet. Let me get set up as well. Nice. How's everyone doing in the chat? Feeling great. First time catching the stream live. That's awesome. Limerist, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? Just letting everyone know that the stream is starting. Paul Elder. Hey man, how are you doing? It's going good. You know, I've been working on the site. So I've been laying like the foundations of something new. I don't want to reveal too much just yet, but we got something new that I'm building on. It's gonna be exciting. Yeah, I'm currently going through like the first round of testing to see what the initial reception is like for well, basically for the team itself. Sounds cool, can't wait. Hell yeah. Hey, 16BS! Mashinoid. Hey, what's up? What's the software that lets you draw on the screen? So it's a program called Epic Pen. So yeah, it's really neat, honestly. Like I don't use it that much. I basically only use it exclusively for these kind of streams, right? But it's actually a great program. I'm loving it. Yeah, it has like, can change the thickness. Oh, it's hidden behind my... Wait, hold on. Didn't realize it was hidden by my cam. It has like a bunch of options here where you can like change the thickness. It's apparently... I don't ever use these other stuff though. Oh, okay. So that's available in Epic Pen Pro apparently. But it is nice. I don't really use this function, but you can kind of keep it on your screen as well. Which, with some of the other ones, it doesn't allow you to do that. So you draw on your screen, and then if you want to move it again, you have to go out of it, and you can't like go back to it. Something like that. Can be annoying. Clear it like this. Let me... Because we can move it here instead. Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time on the website recently. I haven't been doing any environment art this week and last week, I think. I've been kind of doing little bits here and there whenever I was kind of feeling like uninspired to work on the website, but I think I go through phases, you know. I'll work on something else and then I'll go back to the environment that I'm working on. So it's pretty nice, can't complain. In an hour, like normally this stream is also like an hour later. So I don't know. I mean, we've only done 2, right? But I'm doing this on like a monthly basis. The last one we had at like 8, which usually is like my normal streaming time. Or like whenever I do like events basically. But this month we already have an event. Like we're gonna be watching Gamescom together. So I only got like a limited amount of time this time around. So talking about that, maybe we should just dive into it, you know? Let me bring up the portfolio review channel first. Let's see if Ignacio has added some comments. All right, so starting off with this portfolio from Ignacio. He's saying in the chat, so hi everyone, it's my first time with this portfolio feedback event, and I'm not sure how it all works, but I'm gonna try. I just finished a 2-year 3D art for video games formation, and all my portfolio work starts from there. I do my own projects from now on. I'm trying to think on how to approach it, how to work better to get an opportunity in the industry. Okay, so kind of like getting inspiration for like future projects as well, based on the feedback from today. That's cool. Something to keep in mind. I like to kind of keep it to like a sort of format that I've been slowly been tweaking over time. So the first impression, I always like to start with that. Or I usually start with that, you know. So let's do that right here. Okay. First impression, feels like there's a little bit of everything in here, right? With the later focus going more towards environment specifically. So like especially these ones. Oh, also during this event, if you have any questions, feel free to just shout out questions, and if they're like applicable to what we're currently talking about, like I would love to discuss it. So we got some props, we got some environments. This looks more like a game, like it has like VR demo game in the name. Then we got some character art as well. And then yeah, it seems to be mostly focused on props, right? A bunch of style variations as well, where we have something that you might call a bit like more monotone. Like this one here, and then we have like something that's a bit more colorful. So it's nice, you know. It's not always bad to have like such divergent work in your portfolio. It shows that you can do multiple art styles. So that's actually an interesting take to bring up. Honestly, the first impression is pretty good. I'm kind of excited to go into this stuff. I also like what I'm seeing here. Like if I had to point out which ones that I'm the most interested in. Just from like a thumbnail perspective, right? So we'll probably want to check out this one. This one? This one. Let me see. If I have to pick 3, which one would that be? Maybe if we go for the more interesting ones, I'll add this one as well. Like these 3, they really stand out because there's like like a lot of stuff happening, you know? And this is just because like this is more colorful and like it's more unique. And then we have this one, which is like really nice detail on this one. So if I had to pick like the 3 favorite ones that I would want to click on, I would probably go for like these 3. The reason why this one doesn't really stand out is because the colors, like it's too monotone. And there's also, it's hard to relate with this environment. Even though it might be even based on like a real thing. It's just hard to relate with it. So maybe there's like a way your thumbnails to find like a corner that's a bit more relatable to people. Unrelatable. And then this one is a bit too busy, I feel. But it's also a game, right? So I'm trying to like, I have a bias towards environment art. So I already know that I'm going to focus on environment art in these portfolio reviews. So I kind of have a bias built into that. So yeah. Before diving in though, let's zoom out a little bit. We kind of discussed the thumbnails of it. Usually what I discuss before the thumbnails is the tagline as well, because I think it's important to like set the stage or like set the mood of your environment or like, well, your portfolio. And I would probably say, like, if you want to write something here, just keep it to like 3D environment artist and kind of leave the architect out of it. Maybe the architect is there for like the local market, right? So it's more like an opportunity based thing. I'll try to explain a little bit, right? So let's say that your local, I don't know what the stage is in Barcelona, but like if you don't see that many games companies around you, then you might be inclined to put like architect on your portfolio just to make sure that you're not leaving the local market behind if they want to offer you a job. But I think it's always important to just state what you want to do instead of like trying to match the local market or like something like that. I know it's kind of a balance, but especially in this tagline, just state what you want to do and what you're passionate about, because that's going to attract people to your portfolio too. A small tidbit on your tagline there. All right. I do want to come back to the thumbnails in a bit as well. But I first want to dive in. So I knew that I picked these 3 ones that I wanted to check out. So maybe we start there. Let's go from the back. That's cool. I like that. The 2-month project. 1 month was spent on. Hold on, let me move this over. 1 month was spent on character development. The other was on environment art. We started from our own world building. First time using ZBrush in my first character design. Okay. So wait. We also did our own sketches. Okay, so I was responsible for the level design, top-downs, architecture, concept, and props, all of which can be seen in the project images. That was the thing that I was looking for. Like I'm always curious to know what your responsibilities are, right? And this counts for like recruiters as well, right? They'll be looking for that stuff if they're diving into your portfolio. So top-downs, architecture, concept, and props, all of which can be seen in the project images. So architecture, concept, and props. So does that mean that you didn't do the architecture itself? Interesting. There might be, with that stuff, you have to be like really clear, you know? Like you have to basically spell out like, hey, I worked on like the architecture, comma, like the concepts for the architecture, comma, and then just props, you know? Like you have to really point out what you worked on, because from this, like architecture, concept, and props, it's like, okay, so you did architecture, concept, and props, but you didn't do the architecture yourself then. Right? So it's getting confusing already. Which isn't like a good sign. Oh, let's move that back. Didn't even realize that was freaking gone. Yeah, so I would say keep that in mind, you know? Like be really clear in what you want to say. but we're not going to dwell on that too much. Just a small thing to point out. I like the colors. Honestly, like I like the painterly vibe. I love the greens and the oranges. It's a very nice, like, vertical slice. And when is this, by the way? Posted last year. Okay. It has a very indie vibe to it, you know? Oh, this is nice. The curves in the building look really nice. There are areas where you can tell that it was made under stress, you know, or like under time duress, not necessarily stress. Okay, cool. Did some characters. Oh, okay, so you did do the architecture. That's cool. Yeah, the pieces are cool. I like it. Oh, these stand out. Some nice, strong shapes going in there, you know? Especially if you look at stuff by yourself, you can really focus on the shapes of it. Quite nice. It's annoying that you have like all the nice architecture pieces, and then you have like the large chimney that's just like a tileable and has no sort of detail, but it's so big that, yeah, it makes it feel like it was unfinished. Yeah, this is cool though. It's interesting that you also did like a character at the same time, you know, because it makes me wonder, like, if you had the time to focus on like a full environment yourself and just focus on like all the architectural pieces, like how much more improved they would look. Not that they look necessarily bad, but I'm wondering like where you would have put that time. That's cool. Let's hop over to this one then. Let's have a look here. Game ready app asset implemented in Unreal Engine 4. Oh, okay. Very low poly. Like in a good way. On certain regions though, like, interesting. You know the wireframe of it? Hi Antonio! How are you doing? Limaris, that's a really interesting question. Let me refer to that in just a little bit. Then we can discuss it a little. There's a lot that you can... It's weird because like you have like a lot of... You've done a lot of optimization on the wireframe already, right? But then you have like certain areas which are like really, really dense. Like this stuff down here. Like if we're talking about like wireframe, or like, well, topology is always like in relation to like the other parts of the same asset, right? Or even the other assets in the scene. Where if you're really minimalistic and clean with like the main shape, especially with like the rounded pieces here, right? And then you add like a ton of geometry on like these sections, which you can barely see anyway because they're hidden underneath the thing. That's where you can potentially start questioning like your thought process behind the wireframe and like where you're putting your polys, because you're basically throwing all your budget, well, not all your budget, but like most of your budget underneath a thing instead of spending it on like the stuff that's like in your face, like all the stuff up here basically, and making that more detailed. So just something to be aware of. Like it's all about like the consistency of it. Because yeah, again, like especially on curves, right? That's where it becomes like really apparent. Like this is like 3 sections, and then on the same sort of space here, you're probably putting like 6 sections on like the same thing, on like the same kind of curve. So I would probably boost that one up and lower that one down a little bit and just have that consistent. Make it look really nice and consistent. Some cool shaders on there as well. I gotta say, I like that you put the wireframes on there. Because a lot of people, they tend not to do it. And I feel like that hurts them in like especially the short run. You know, like if you want to get recruited and you want to get into the industry like really quick, like being open as possible is definitely going to help you out because you're being transparent with the people that want to potentially hire you, right? So you kind of have to see it as like you apply or they look at your portfolio and they come with like a set of questions, basically a checklist. And if they can check like a ton of boxes, like the more boxes they can check, the closer you are to getting your interview or potentially getting in to that studio. But they might not have time to call you up and check all the boxes if they have like a lot of other people that that are basically waiting in line, right? They might have someone with more checkboxes where they're like, yeah, we kind of know more about that person. Let's just have a call with them instead of with a person that checks less boxes on that list. Gotta keep that in mind. So that's why the wireframe is a very good thing that you're showing off. Curious to see if that continues in the next one. Just talking about like the presentation. It is like you can do more with these presentations, right? Where it's just like the black background. You can elevate that. Like just put like a floor underneath it with like a texture, something to give it more interest, right? You can even take the floor that you probably already have from the game itself and then just put that in here and just use that for your presentation. Hey Shampoo, how are you doing? Oh, I see now. So remember when we were talking about like the topology on these headsets? I guess the reason why they are higher is because they are in the back, well, on the character, right? So potentially you're going to see it like up close. So that's the reason why they have more topology. That's fine then, if that's the case. I would say don't be afraid to use more polys though, like on your assets still. Now, what also, I'm trying to think of a way of adding like inconsistency to this, right? You're kind of already doing it on like the stickers, but if you're doing any damage to like any prop, no matter what you're texturing, it has to be logical. You have to think about how a prop is used or how someone would interact or how the prop would interact with the environment, right? Is it in like a wet environment, then you're probably going to see some more potential rust or moss or like water type decay instead of just like the dry scratches. So that stuff can like really inform how you should think about your assets and like the production of them. Like for example, if they're putting these giant headsets at the bottom of it, I would expect like a lot of scratches down here because the slot that they have to put it in is quite narrow. So that's something to think about. go to this latest one then. So the reason why I kind of started with the oldest piece in this case was because I was interesting to see the transition from like your older work to your newer work, and just seeing how quick you're learning things and how you're implementing the lessons that you're learning. So even comparing this to the VR assets that you're making, like the VR arcade assets that you're making, like this feels already like way more detailed. You know, like you can see like a lot of you're thinking about like small inconsistencies and like stuff, things that make it human, you know. Paul Alder is asking a question: if it comes to doing water type textures, can't you use decals features? Yeah, decals, and place them on top of the assets accordingly. Yeah, you could do that and do it that way. I would say that decals are probably better to use in larger situations where you have flat surfaces. For example, walls, floors, stairs, something like that. The reason why I say this is like a decal usually comes with like a bounding box, right? And then it gets like projected onto the asset. You could still do it on the VR arcade if you wanted to. You just have to be really careful with the placement. And if you're already doing a unique texture and you know that the variables of the environment that the asset is going to be set in are not going to change, then it might be worth either putting it into the texture already or making a variation that is more heavily damaged by water. So you could have one base prop that is not damaged, and then you could have like a damaged version of it with like a lot of water damage. I would probably do it that way because you just have like a more like detailed control about where you put like your water damage. It's a really good question though, Paul. And if we're going through like the chat, let's look at Lima Resta's question as well. What advice would you give to someone who makes mobile games and thus has mostly them in the portfolio, but is looking to transition to PC and consoles? It's gonna be fairly simple. Like, show that you can do PC and console games, right? What that means, you have to figure out for yourself, because it depends on what you like to work for, you know? So let's say, to really simplify it, pick a game that you like and try to do like a fan art or something like that. That could be like a good way of transitioning into that. And just make sure that you kind of understand the workflows and that you can set the bar as high as you need to get into like AAA or like bigger PC/console games. Right. Let's have a look at this post. So we were talking about like inconsistencies, right? Or like inconsistencies for me is like a very broad term. It's basically wear and tear, like, and how people interacted with the prop. I'll point like a couple of things out here. It's gonna be very noticeable once I start doing so. But I'm talking about this stuff, right? Like the broken plank. You have some small indents as well. Small indents, like someone's rubbing against these table legs, like they're kind of bumping into it, and that's causing this peeling of the material. So bumping in. Just gonna call it a table. And all of this stuff makes it more relatable and more real to us, because it gives it like a lived-in feel, you know? Unless you're doing like a brand new, like cleanly manufactured piece, you should be thinking about this. And especially like a dirt transition here. It's nice. This is also like a great example because it's such a worn prop already, right? So you can be like a bit more liberal with how you do this kind of damage. But it's good to see. Like this is what I like to see people transition into. You know, they start thinking more and more about the details and less about like the big technical stuff that they have to get rid of first. So great work here. Oh, nice. Got the wireframe on here as well. Let me, at the same time, like, read some of this stuff as well. Try to blend alien, like ancient look with strange advanced technology of like a rare human space lost society. Okay. Like Dune. Okay, cool. We'll have an environment, like a look at the environment in a bit. Hey, Costas, how are you doing, buddy? This is cool. So it's leaning into like Egyptian vibes, but then also something that's not relatable too, right? It's cool. Like, it's just like a small side tangent. This is probably like the hardest thing to do. Just in general, I think it's like coming up with something new, right? Designing stuff for yourself, because you have to marry. You always have to think about like how people perceive things around them, because you want something that's like relatable but then also foreign, and usually that's like I think the design rule about that is like 80-20. So like 80% relatable, 20% like new, so that they can relate to it, and then they're like, oh, like let's say this is like a tabletop game, right? Because it looks like one, but it's also like, what is it? Because it looks weird. You have like this long pawns on sticks, like you're not really sure what's happening. So I think this is a very interesting approach to how you should do like a prop like this. It's a interesting example. I wonder, so this close-up is really cool. The normal is a bit intense. I would turn it down just a little bit or add more variation into it or something, but like this is a very interesting shot. I would potentially even use this as like a thumbnail as well. Let's go back really quick. What was the previous thumbnail? Yeah. So it's trying to show off as much as possible from the prop, right? But still keeping it mysterious. I'm honestly like a big fan of this, where you're showing off like the high detail, like all the detail that you've put into the prop in the thumbnail, and people are like, oh shit, that looks detailed, you know? I'm gonna jump in. You might have to watch out for like a couple of small things, right? Like I'm saying, if you want to turn this into like a thumbnail, like let's say I don't know, I'm just taking like a random square, right? Let's say like this is your thumbnail. I saw that you also had some icons on it, right? So Unreal, the rookies, and then like some stuff from yourself. You gotta try and condense that just like a little bit. Sorry, I just almost kicked my dog under under the desktop. Didn't even realize that he was sleeping there. Yeah, so a couple of small things, right? We were talking about the logos. I would say like Unreal, rookies, and then your own thing, right? I don't want to take up like any more space than that. Just keep it focused on the work rather on those icons that you're trying to show off. And then also, if you're doing this as a thumbnail, right? And if you're doing like detail shots, make sure that this stretching is not visible. Got some stretching there, and then just like the in general, like the normal intensity, that would be something to work on. But then you have like a really interesting thumbnail, I think. Yeah, because this looks great, you know? Like you have like a great presentation as well, with like a warm light here, cold light here. You get like nice color contrast coming from the left and the right, giving it this like nice mood, and with like the nice depth of field on it. Just gotta make use of like the amazing stuff that you create, right? Like this is a fantastic shot, I feel. It would be a shame to let it go to waste. Wait, so what is this then? So this is something else, and this is a mural. So wall murals, okay. I do have a question for this. Like, to me, I thought this was still like the table, so I was assuming that this is wood, because it looks like wood to me. So if it's not meant to be wood, then you might have to tweak the materials, because I'm assuming that it's stone, right? It's probably carved out of the walls or something like that. Then you might have to tweak it a little bit. Like it's the combination of like the shine and the bumpiness that kind of makes it feel like it's a rougher wood type. Okay. These are not as good as the first one, you know? It's still interesting to see like the more unique styles. But this is what I meant with just designing is like super difficult, because you did a great job on this, but then you need to distill the language of this table down into something that can be reused on other design elements. And that's where it gets really tricky. Because if we zoom out, this doesn't necessarily feel like it fits in with this. Like apart from the colors, you know, like it's a different amount of density. It's a different yeah, just like language to it. Where this is like curved and straight, and then it has like these interesting insets. And then these insets are like rounded off instead of just sharp. I mean, it's tricky for me too. You know, I just want to say that I'm not a design expert by any means. I'm just trying to highlight how difficult this stuff gets, because I know that it can get difficult. The props still look interesting though. Like from the markings and like the details that are added onto it. Cool. Okay. So yeah, maybe maybe this is a point where you need to be really honest with yourself and just say like, hey, look, I put a ton of work into all these props, but to me there's a definite winner into what deserves like the spotlight, right? Like these wall murals and this top, like this tabletop table, is they're very interesting. And it feels like you spent a lot of time thinking about like all the design elements. Like this is freaking gorgeous, honestly. Like I love that. But then you scroll down and it feels like these are not as good anymore. So I would honestly think about just removing all of it. Well, not all of this, but like from this point potentially. Yeah, I would say so. Like that would like elevate where this piece would sit if you're just showing off like all the strong stuff, you know, that where you're really like 100% convinced from. I'm gonna go over this one next, well, as like a latest thing, and then we'll zoom out a bit and then talk about like the general portfolio, because I didn't keep track of the time. Oh shit, okay. That we are developing with 12 colleagues. Oh, okay. It has been a challenge to take on the role of art director for the whole project. Okay, interesting. That would definitely be a challenge for sure. Blah, blah, blah. There's like a bunch of stuff in here. That's interesting. I love the collaboration of it. That is such a tricky thing to do, though. I'm really interested if... Yeah, oh, I think you mentioned it, right? So I just finished a 2-year 3D art for video games formation. Okay. Man, that is such... Oh, Ignacio, you're here. I just wanted to say, like, that is such a big task to take upon yourself, to already be like quote unquote art director and like leading the team of like 12 people to make something good. So I love that you're doing it, you know, but it's a giant task. So I just want to kind of say congratulations on that. Some stuff just looks really good, you know, like these wall murals, because everything comes together, you know, like the wall mural itself, like we looked at it earlier, looks freaking amazing. And then you have the lights just lighting it up in that perfect way. Looks so good. Interesting. Okay, so I'm assuming that this is what you're currently still working on, right? Did it say? Sorry. That we are developing. So I'm assuming that you're still developing this. Oh, hi, Gav. Good to have you here too, buddy. Okay, let's take a step back. Let's zoom out. What would I recommend is going forward is focus, you know? Like a lot of your portfolio is trying to do like way more than what you're technically responsible for if you get a job in the industry. So that would be my first recommendation. It's just picking like, hey, I'm gonna be an environment artist. And that doesn't mean that you have to stop doing your collaboration project now, but I think you also just have to realize that that is taken away from developing your personal skills if you're doing already more than what you're normally responsible for. And don't get me wrong, like leading a team is like a valuable experience, right? It's just, I feel like it's good to build up the foundation first and then build on top of it, where you're trying to build everything at the same time. And that can work too, 100%. It's just not the easiest way to go about it. And then focusing as well on just like one aspect of things, like one aspect of, let's say, environment art. You know, like I'm just gonna create an environment by myself, just like a small diorama or something like that. Allows you to really show off your skills and not get distracted by anything else that you have to do. Because you got some really good stuff in your portfolio, like 100%. I love what I'm seeing. I just want to see like a little bit more focus, you know, because there's like a lot of potential there, but I feel like you're getting pulled into like a different directions. But yeah, Interesting stuff, Ignacio, and thank you so much for showing it off as well. I appreciate that too. If you have any like other questions or comments, feel free to just put them in the chat or talk to me afterwards too. That's fine. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much. Sweet. Okay. Just gonna take a sip of water, and then we're gonna jump over to Josette's portfolio as well. No worries, Ignacio. Was that helpful at all? Or is there something that's confusing you? Like, feel free to just ask it in the chat, and I would love to clarify. Right. No worries if you don't, though, but I'll give you some time. In the meantime, let's hop on over to Josette's portfolio. Let's have a look here. First impressions. Cool. Environment art, I'm seeing like a bunch of different stuff, you know? With different stuff, I mean, we got some environments here. We got a material, we got some props. So that's nice. Kind of building up like all the different experiences that you need to become like an environment artist. And of course, you're saying it right here. So the tagline matches up perfectly with what you're trying to show off here, which is really nice. Yeah, let's have a look. Just have a look at the thumbnails, you know? I feel you're definitely improving. 100%. You can see that yourself as well, I'm sure. Where you're definitely seeing like a change from like this to like all the way here, where you're using lighting more and you're trying to like pull the interest with the thumbnail. Same here, but it's a bit too much, you know? It's a bit too what would I say? Like almost like lens flare kind of stuff, you know? Like the highlights are like way too strong. It's going a bit like over the top. And then in this one, you're trying to keep it like way more moody, and it's almost turning into like one blob of colors on the thumbnail, which is very, very hard to distinguish like in between like different shapes in the scene then. But I'm not gonna say too much about it. That's my initial impression about like the thumbnails. We're seeing a progression. I'm liking the last one. So let's just dive in, you know? Should we do? I'm gonna pick 3 again. I'm not gonna deviate this time. So I'm probably gonna skip the material. Or I might scroll through it like really quick, but let's have a quick look. Because this is, yeah, that's just substance. I'm honestly not gonna spend too much about it. Because I want to see them in relationship to the environment, right? It's always more valuable for me to do it that way than just to look at some spheres. Okay, nice. We got nice presentation here. I mean, nice in terms of like technical details, right? The lighting can definitely be improved. It's kind of like if we kind of look back at what Ignacio was doing with the wall murals, right? Like the stereotypical like 3-point light setup. Like there's also a reason why it's stereotypical. It's because it kind of works, you know? So usually you have like one warm, one cold. God damn it, I couldn't remember that. So you have one warm, one cold, so warm, cold, and then you have like a fill light somewhere here. And then this is a camera, right? And then your fill light. The fill light is basically just to give you like a neutral light that kind of fills the scene so that you don't have like dark shadows because you're backlighting with these two, right? Just like the quick basics of it. And this is more just like, it's a face. Yeah, it is. And this is more just lit up with like all the lights up front. And you're not really doing anything to like separate the asset from like the background. Usually done with like these lights, which cause like a rim effect to happen as well too. Of course, you can expand on this as well, where you could have like a rim light all the way here if you wanted to just make that like nice silhouette like pop out from the background. But I don't think you need to go that far. But yeah, definitely lighting can be improved. 100%. Let's have a look. Presentation is going in a good direction though. Like, you're trying to do more, you know? Like, you're not just putting it on like a background, like a black background, and then just calling it a day. Also, I want to call out, like, this is kind of what you want, right? You're already kind of doing like the warm. Let me point it out. Like you got the warm light coming in here, and then you have like the cold light, which is basically just the white light here. So it's creating like a nice contrast between like the two colors, and it's just making the asset pop a little bit. I think what you're trying to do with the white light is just, you're not sure if it's trying to be a fill light or just like a complementary light, like the cold one. So once you figure that out, because at this point, like at this stage of the asset, or like at this side of the asset, like especially here, like I don't know where the asset stops and where like the background begins, you know? You kind of need to separate it from the background in that way. And that can be done with like rim lights to just, from, if you put like a light behind it, gives it that nice rim on like the sides of it. Something to keep in mind. Also using Blender, like a personal challenge to not limit myself to just one 3D modeling package. Just a slight tidbit on that, since you mentioned it yourself, right? It's fine to use only one 3D modeling package, and then once you got a job, you can still switch over if you wanted to, right? Like usually the technical expertise or like the technical knowledge that you need to have if you want to jump ship, or if you want to jump to like a new studio that uses like a new 3D modeling package. In my experience, like they're never gonna look down on, let's say, a person that uses Blender and then needs to learn Maya. Like it's super easy to just take all the knowledge from Blender and just find a different button for it in Maya, right? It's just technical know-how. You're gonna be up to speed with that like really quick. So don't feel the need to constantly jump around because you want to build like expertise in all the 3D modeling packages. Just stick with one, focus on that, make it look really good instead. Just to give a little bit of background on that too, like the reason why I'm bringing this up is I've used them all, you know, well, not all of them, but like all the popular ones. So in uni, I was using Max. Then for my first job, I had to switch to Maya, which I did. I did a little bit of ramp up work, you know, like on my own time before I got the job to learn Maya. But then I still did a bunch of the learning on the job as well. And then at a certain point when Blender 2.8 came out, I just switched to Blender and started using that at work as well. And still using Max like a little bit too, because usually with proprietary engines, you have a program that's still attached to the engine, so you need to get it into that program first before you can get it into the engine. It's like a long way of explaining that just focus on one thing, and then if you have to switch, just do it then. But don't start like deviating from like one program because you think that potentially at some point someone might reach out and ask you to learn Max. This is in the chat saying, yeah, I think it's a key light that should be backed away in brightness from the rim light. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a bit overblown at the moment, right? I think so. I mean, I'm no lighter either, but like you're saying, the rim light is usually the brightest. Yeah, I'm very artistic with that, right? Like, I'll just see what works, and if it doesn't, then I'll turn it on. I know it's a very, very crude way of saying it, but that's usually how it works. I think about lighting as if I'm painting with light. Like, I'm trying to show off like the good stuff on my asset or my environment, and I'll literally just move around and like find a place, and it's like, oh, I like this angle, cool, leave that light there, drag in a new light, and like move around, like, oh, this works nice, cool. And yeah, I guess I light intuitively because I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. Hey, look, don't try to reveal me too much, okay? Jeez. But no, sometimes, yeah, I try to do that too, you know? Like, I see it as like an artistic tool where I'm just like moving stuff around, like, oh, this is showing off the roughness nicely, and I'll just leave it there. All right, moving on. Let's have a look. So we looked at these containers. I'm gonna quickly look at when this was made. 2 years ago. I'm honestly gonna skip this one then, because I want to look at more recent work. Last couple of weeks working on the Grand Space Challenge. Okay. So wait, let me see. I'm interested in this. Oh no, I wanted to see your challenge entry. Hold up. Let's find out. I kind of just want to quickly go through like the progress, you know? Oh, why doesn't it take me to the one that I want to see? There's no search button either? Oh. Can I do it this way? No, I can't. Oh, God. Why can't I? Wait. Oh, I was doing it wrong. Okay, here we go. Concept choice. Okay. Interesting. I mean, I've done a couple of these myself, right? I did... To my own surprise, I was looking at this recently, and I did 3. I just forgot that I did 3, because I can only remember 2. The third one is literally me saying that I'll participate and then not doing anything, so I'm not counting that one. But yeah, like in the time span that you have in those challenges, it's rough to like really get the concept right, and get all the details to translate in 3D. That's usually the hard part, you know. And that's kind of what we're seeing here too. But I know the time pressures. I'm not gonna bash it all too much. It's just as a quick overview. If we compare it to the concept, I had like a quick glance at the concept just now. It's just missing details, right? So details are missing. It's also missing color variation. So in the concept, you had like more variation between the blues and the greens. Let me see if I can still bring it up, you know? Like you have like blues and greens and yellows going on. Instead of looking at yours, it's more towards like the same spectrum of color. And it makes it feel flat, you know? That's also what I mentioned with the thumbnail. It kind of makes it feel flat. So this might actually be a thing to revisit. Not only relying on the 1 month that you did, but also just doing just doing like a bit of extra work and trying to make this as good as possible, you know? Because you have like a really strong base here, it would kind of be a shame to not try and like push it further than it already is, in my opinion. Main trim. Oh, you have a trim as well? That's perfect. You can just do decals or like update the trim, and yeah, you can do so much with like small tweaks. Oh, this is saying the piece that got me hired was one I returned to and polished a few months later. Yeah, I think honestly that's the best. Especially thinking about like the stress that you can probably get from doing a challenge like this. It can be intense. So just leave it be. Like exactly like you're saying. Just leave it be for like a certain amount of time, then get back to it with fresh eyes and just finish it, you know, because the core is there. It just needs like the 10%, you know? Like you're 90% there, it just needs that extra 10%. So yeah, just like decals and like you can do like a lot of cool stuff with this. Worth revisiting, in my opinion. Oh, let's now go back to Ignacio. Yeah, and once you do that, once you revisit that piece, and then you're gonna find like way more interesting shots for the thumbnail, you know? Oh, it has so much potential to look good. So it's definitely worth revisiting. Then we get to the final piece that we're looking at. Wireframe view. A watershed. This almost just feels like an outhouse, you know? I don't know what a watershed is. Like in the reason or like in the sense of like what the purpose of like a watershed is. Like if they store water there for like forest rangers or something like that. Like ranger caches? I'm not sure. But like that's the thing, right? Like it's cool, but I would expect something more? Well, like in terms of story, right? Like this is just like a little cabin that has like a couple of planks in front of it and then has like a trail running off of it. It's like, okay, that's cool, but what is this place? Like, why is that cabin there? Like, what's the logic behind it? And I'm not saying that you have to do like a lot of stuff to it to make it look like that, right? Just to give like a quick inspiration. Like, what if it's not a watershed, but it's like an outhouse, you know? So you have like the carved heart into like this section, you know, like the stereotypical thing, and then you kind of follow this path. But then you see, instead of this rock here, what if you just make that like, I don't know, like the top of someone's cabin, right? And I'm not saying that you have to create like a huge cabin that's like unique, like completely unique or something like that. You can just use the same pieces here. You've already made like all the wood pieces you need to make a cabin. and it's going to be in the back too. So you can probably get by with just doing something relatively simple. But then we have like a little bit of a story going on, you know? Like this is just someone's outhouse. And it can be like a little cute story of just someone's outhouse, and maybe they carve their name into it or something like that. Maybe it's a little bit vandalized, but think about the story that you want to tell. I always say that... Oh, hello, bud. I always say that like the foundation to me for every scene is just having that story there, you know? Like starting out with that story is going to give you so much, like so many ideas on how you should approach your assets, what kind of texturing style that you're going for. Because let me just give you like a quick example on this, right? Like this is old grandpa's cabin in the woods that he built himself, that maybe at this moment in time got vandalized, and you're there to restore it, you know? Like that one sentence can give you like so much inspiration, because then this shed that we're talking about here then has like a bunch of tags, maybe like the wood is like partially fallen out from it, and you can see like a little toolbox next to it, like a like just like a little toolbox next to it, you know? Someone's like busy repairing it, and it can turn into like this cute little scene about like a person coming in. You don't have to see the person, but like a person coming in and trying to like you reclaim his heritage or something like that. So that's why I always like to push for go with that story first, and let the story then serve as a foundation of what you're gonna do with the rest of the scene. And if at any point you get stuck, you can just return to the story and kind of imagine what you would do in that situation. You can just pull from it like a well from inspiration. Definitely recommend thinking about it that way. Because there's a lot of like, I just gave one example, right? I don't want to give you any suggestions or that this is a story you need to do to make it look good. I'm just trying to give you the framework that you can be like, okay, cool. What's my story that I want to tell with this scene? And I made the same mistake myself as well, right? Like, if we're quickly looking at this portfolio piece, like it's okay executed, but there's nothing here, you know? Imagine if there was a story happening here, like this would have been so much better than it is currently. Like right now, it's more about the technicality than the actual storytelling of it. But if this, I don't know, someone's building a forest encampment or something like that, you know? Like it adds like that extra layer on top of it that's going to make you stand out. So think about that in the future. Because the technical execution is good, right? Like I love the foliage. Like I absolutely love it. Like especially the little ferns here. Love them. The shed, just maybe break up the silhouette just a little bit, make it feel like nice and unique. Like you're doing with the roof. The roof is fantastic, you know? Like it feels very handmade in that way. Where you have like all the shingles and they're slightly offset. You just have to do the same thing with like this. You know, just make it like, oh, it's not like a full metal thing. It's like partially broken up. Cool. And then you have like, oh, one of these planks is not as tall as the other one. Nice. And maybe this one isn't either. You know, and you can add like a lot of character to a building like this, where you're just playing with the already existing geometry, you know? Like you squish it around, you push it around, and then you're good to go. Yeah, cool. All right, Josette, I hope that that really helped. Thank you so much for showing your portfolio as well. Just as a quick recap, just keep doing what you're doing, man. Like the stuff that I'm seeing here gives like a lot of potential for the future. And definitely revisit this one for sure. If you have some time, finish that one. Maybe relight this one, and then, man, it's gonna be good. You know, like you're elevating your portfolio with the stuff that you already have, and so you're in a good position. And then just keep adding on top of it and keep removing from the back end. So you're like moving your portfolio in like a really good direction. Like if you can make one more scene like this, just get rid of this one. And I mean, just unpublish it, right? I don't want to like freaking eradicate it, but just unpublish it. All right, Josette. Again, thanks so much for sharing your portfolio. I went a bit over time, so I'll have to go and join some friends because we're gonna be watching Gamescom. So a quick plug here. I'll be doing these events, these portfolio events, like every month. So there's already like a couple of people that have signed up for like next month's event. I'll try to do 3 that time. And if you're curious about joining up, there's like a bunch of links on the screen as well. If you're interested in becoming an environment artist, join up at beyondextend.com. Join us all. We'd be happy to have you and help you grow along your journey. And then, yeah, I'm hoping to see you in next month's session or whenever I do another live stream. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.